What do you look for in your base? Often you have to choose between storage, utility, and security. This can lead to impossibly large bases or compromises. If you're like me and you don't want to spend all day and night farming, you want to pick something a little bit more manageable, something that has a good balance of all three aspects. Today's base can be built in stages, making it manageable no matter the pop. Featuring 3 separate loot rooms, a fully sealed bunker for your most valuable loot, and a separate bunker deep in the core of your base just for your TC. With this base, you're going to leave raiders confused, frustrated, and it just might be enough to save your wife. Whenever you're building a base that might have a bit of a bigger footprint, it can be a good idea to place a rough estimate of that entire early footprint just in Twig. This is going to help you avoid issues where you might not be able to upgrade parts of your base and could cause you issues later down the road. In this base, one spot that I would look for in particular, because this ground does look a little low here, is I want to come out here and make sure I can place a raised foundation up here. Now, because I can place this raised foundation, I'm not too worried. However, if you didn't have that option, there are some workarounds, and I'll go over that a little later in the video. That said, with the actual start of the base, all we're really looking for is this footprint right here. Next, we're going to go ahead and wall off this entire down area and put a double door frame in here. I understand that's not the typical expectation for this layout of base, but is what we're going to need to make the base work later on. Go ahead and close everything up as you normally would, except for this triangle. This triangle is going to need a triangle frame. However, you do have the other option of actually removing that and using a floor piece. However, you would have to soft side this later when you go to expand, and that can get a little tedious. Alternatively, if you didn't want a soft side, you would have to build up here right away, and so we would actually look to close that off as early as possible. Doing so with a door in the front and everything else closed, we could go up and place that and upgrade that as well. Once this is all sealed in, we can go ahead and put our TC in here. Now, if you wanted to and you were able to do so ahead of time, you can actually get a TC and a furnace in this nice area. It does require that you make sure this TC is completely lined up against the wall, and then we can place this wall back, upgrade that, and you'll actually be able to slink a furnace right in here. Doing so is going to give you an extra little bit of secure storage deep in your core, so that's something you might want to consider when you're placing your TC initially. Alternatively, if that doesn't matter too much to you, just slapping the TC down like that is perfectly acceptable. For now, you can leave it open, but I do recommend blocking it off and upgrading that as soon as possible. It's going to make things a lot harder for raiders to get to, and ultimately that's how it's going to be placed later, so I just like doing it early. From that point, you can go ahead and turn this into a storage area, meaning you'll be able to keep your loot in here and have it much more secure. In these rooms, you're simply going to go ahead and place your large box, a small box, and a large box. Unfortunately, with the recent update, barbecues are no longer an option for these loot rooms, as they can only really hold the meat that is intended. Keeping in mind, with the recent change, you also won't be able to keep things in furnaces except for resources. This means that the furnace in there now is only really useful for keeping your extra sulfur or maybe even your gunpowder. Once that's all sealed up, you can go ahead and live out of this room as you please and carry on with your wipe. Once you've farmed up a little bit more and you're looking to upgrade, we can go ahead and place our 2 triangles right here. Coming out here, we're going to immediately upgrade this triangle and prepare to close this section in entirely. Next, from this triangle here, we're going to be creating an offset bunker. Now, this offset bunker that we're building in particular has actually been perfected by gamelightz. Gamelightz found a way that we can make this without a gap and making it a lot more useful, especially if you're worried about getting griefed early on. Building 1 square, we're then going to build off 11 triangles away from the base. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. At the 11th triangle, we're going to go ahead and place a square and then destroy all of your triangles. Destroy the square as well, and the final triangle. Build back from your outside square all the way back to the base. Now it won't matter if you have to change elevation at all, it's just important that you make sure that you come back to your original elevation and that you make sure you're building off of your new pieces and not connecting to the base. To do that, you'll simply want to make sure that you place your build as soon as you can from looking up from here. This is going to help make sure we're not connecting to the wrong piece. And then for this triangle over here in particular, you're going to want to make sure that your foundation piece, when placed, is placed in this manner. You're going to see these 3 little stone marks on this right side in the corner, and that'll indicate that you've done it correctly. Go ahead and upgrade that, and then destroy these extra squares. Place a new square, and repeat the process. At the 11th, place your square again, and destroy the triangles. This time destroying the square, but obviously not the new triangle. Once built back, you'll want to make sure you connect to this square and not this triangle. Doing so can be achieved by simply looking at the square and moving your mouse or joystick over to the right and clicking as soon as you can. If done, you can then go ahead and destroy all of these squares, and we're going to place 2 half walls. From the outside here, as soon as you can place looking up, we're going to go ahead and place 2 half walls and upgrade these. You can wait to upgrade them until after you make sure that it works. To do so, we're going to simply jump up here. We're going to real quick place a floor frame here, and then we're going to place a floor triangle. Coming back down here, you're going to want to make sure this triangle connects to this wall specifically. So from this place, we'll place it as soon as it goes over. And coming back up, you'll see that you can now place another triangle. That's something that you shouldn't be able to do, but thankfully we can. Once that's placed, we can go ahead and check that a roof piece does indeed cause that to break. And if done correctly, destroy the roof piece, upgrade all of these pieces, and we're good to go. Now obviously this is not the most secure yet and not a great stopping point, so you're going to want to upgrade pretty quickly. Now before doing any upgrading, one thing I recommend doing is destroying this square at least once. That's going to make sure that you're not going to run into any issues with your placement later, and it's still going to allow the bunker to work. Just to double check. This also means that you can't be hard side griefed if somebody destroys that. It won't actually affect your bunker at all. That said, anytime you're working on expanding this base, you should make sure your bunkers are open. This is going to prevent it from accidentally re-socketing these 2 pieces and permanently sealing your bunker. So again, make sure you destroy this square at least once, but aside from that, we're ready to move on. Now, doing this, we're going to first honeycomb the rest of the base and place these squares right here. Now back here when honeycombing, you can either go ahead and add this as extra honeycomb as well, and add a roof piece jump up, or if you're not planning on expanding, I usually just use a roof triangle in this crack here, and it gives you a fairly nice jump up. Really going to come down to how far you plan on expanding this base and whether or not this is your final layer of honeycomb. Over here, we're going to go ahead and box this in and close in a roof here. This is going to act as a loot room later on, so we're going to go ahead and make that one right now. This square here will also get upgraded, and we'll finish this honeycomb over here before we address the rest. Now again, especially when handling these pieces here, anything that might connect to a bunkered piece, or this one here, you'll want to make sure that you do not have your bunker sealed. It can very easily mess up your bunker, and it's an easily avoided problem. Coming down here, you'll remember me mentioning this raised foundation. If for whatever reason you can't place a raised foundation, you'll need to leave this socket open, at least for the lower section. That means best case scenario, you can do something like this and place this roof piece on top of it. That's because we need that bottom socket open in order to be able to place this roof piece. If you have a half wall, or worse yet, a door there, you will no longer be able to place the roof piece. That said, a raised foundation is your best option, as it's going to cause you the least amount of issues and for the least cost. Now you'll notice I am also honeycombing these two bottom rooms, and that's because these function as loot rooms, and who wants their loot room to be an easy raid? Ultimately, that doesn't have to be done too early and can be done fairly leisurely as you build, so it's really dependent on how many materials you have. Now the reason I didn't fully seal up this square here and just turn it into a second loot room is there's options. While it can function simply as another loot room, I like to get some extra utility out of it, especially if a low foundation allows me to. Having a refinery in your base can really help you throughout your wipe, as you're not really going to have to worry about meds. If you don't have the right height, you won't be able to place this extra storage shelf above, but the utility of the refinery outweighs that in my opinion. Of course, anything like this that is a jump up, you're going to want to use a garage door, and make sure the garage door faces inwards towards the square like I've done here. That's going to prevent the roller from being visible outside and make it open inside instead. Next, we're going to go ahead and finish off this upper area. Now, if you wanted to, you could finish this small upper area here first before doing this front area, as it's not required that you get that front done. That means you could go ahead and just seal up as I'm doing up here. And simply build that back area later. Again, that's really going to depend on your build priority, what you want done first, and how much resources you have to do it. Over here, this is going to act as your front door for your wipe, so I do recommend making sure that it is airlocked by having that outer door open inward. And I recommend using this triangle here as a nice little turret spot. This can make sure that you make it home with those loots in that last little stretch without having to worry about getting murdered. Coming in here, this room on the right is the perfect spot in my opinion for a respawn room. While I'm sure you could find other uses for it and maybe a bag is fine for you, I really love the utility of a good respawn room. It allows you to get back into the action quite a bit quicker and ready to go. Recently, Dirt has shown me that with the Twitch Rivals trophy, you can get 100% comfort very quickly, allowing you to heal up with just a little bit of food. You pair that with a quick respawn kit from your locker, and you're ready to get back into the action whenever you need to. Coming over here, whenever you're ready to expand it, we are going to close it off as you might expect. The honeycomb up here does still serve a purpose, so if you wanted to upgrade honeycomb later, that is a perfectly valid option, but not really required. In all of our doorways in here, we are going to be using double doors. This is going to make movement quite a bit easier, and you probably don't want to do this little jumpy thing that I've been doing. To fix that, we're going to use a floor triangle in the middle here, which is going to give us a nice little walking path and make getting up and down still very easy. If you are going to want roof access later, I recommend right here. We're going to go ahead and do exactly as we've done underneath it and place another garage door. If you don't have a garage door, double door will work for now, but you won't be able to go up. Next, we're just going to seal this off here and jump back. Now, I know I've said this a few times, but I'm gonna say it again. If you do intend to upgrade any of this second floor honeycomb outside of these walls here, make sure you unseal your bunker before doing so. That's gonna help avoid any issues, as you only want the bunker sealed when you're not in it. Sealing the bunker is very easy, and upgrades have to be done from inside for the most part. Now, one vulnerability of this base is this wall right here and this roof piece right here. For that reason, we've made it so that they are at the back corner of the base and almost the hardest spot to get to. In addition, we're gonna put a window piece here, which we can then put a window in whenever we need to go offline, and you can nicely fit 3 furnaces in here. That's gonna give you a nice little cook spot and give some extra protection to a vulnerable spot. That said, I would also recommend upgrading these walls to a higher cost material as soon as you can. In addition to upgrading all the bunker pieces, it's one of your biggest targets that you should really be worried about. Of course, getting that bunker open whenever you need to with it fully sealed up, super easy, no issues. However, you'll notice right here, getting up, probably a bit of a problem. And that's why we are gonna place a furnace here for a nice little jump up spot, which makes things a lot easier. And it's also some extra sulfur cooking. Down here, I recommend placing a tier 3 and a locker. That's because you can't fit too many other valuable things here, and it's gonna give you the ability to get your kit protected and your most valuable loot. The tier 3, obviously keeping it by your most valuable loot room, is gonna make life considerably easier, and honestly, it's a no-brainer in my mind. Plus, the locker kit allows you to keep your most valuable kits protected deep in your core and very hard to access from a raider. I forgot you needed a garage door there in order to place your tier 3. Gives me access to all of my loot quickly, any crafting I need to do, and back out to it. Of course, anytime I'm going offline, sealing is a breeze as long as I've destroyed the roof piece. And looting into those areas would be quite the task. And let's look at a final quick base tour to see what we might be able to do and to maximize the utility of this base. Coming in, we've got our locker kit, our locker for quick changes and deposits, as well as our respawn room handily right next to that front door. Walking past the first garage door, we've got our furnaces protected behind glass, adding some extra honeycomb to our vulnerable areas of the base. Of course, more locker kits, as lockers do function for very good loot depositing. Coming back here, we've got our research bench, roof access right here. Dropping down, of course, into our quick, easily accessible loot rooms. Our refinery there, ready for when we need it. And coming back towards our TC. We've got some extra cooking going here, a tier 2 up in the upper area, closer to these 2 loot rooms, making crafting a little bit easier if you don't want to maneuver into the bunker every time. And of course, our bunker. Opening up everything whenever we need to, we can then go into the deeper part of the base with our TC protected back here, and jumping on down. Down here, we've got our nice little tight secure loot room sitting next to our tier 3 and our most secure locker. And that's everything. But this base honestly is well over 23 rockets just to get to TC, and that's if they knew where to go. Given that they're most likely going to waste their time with other bunkers or loot rooms, this base might be the most secure thing I've got yet. And that's it, folks. If you guys like this video, if you like this base design, make sure to smash that like button and subscribe for future content. I'm also working on a couple other bigger base builds, so let me guys know down below in the comments if you guys are interested in seeing some compound bases or things that have some roof access and peak downs. Until next time, enjoy your wipe and peace out.